In anticipation of this election, there's some other things that are going on here in Washington, D.C., and also in New York City. So currently, again, elections on Tuesday, November 3rd. Currently, D.C. is boarding up certain buildings, certain businesses, certain shops in anticipation of the election, in anticipation of possible social unrest, civil unrest, riots, protests. Most um, of the boarding up of the buildings in Washington D.C. are occurring down in the downtown area, um, DuPont Circle, Lafayette Square. Lafayette Square is around the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue. But that picture that Neo has up now, that's across the street from my apartment here at Southwest Waterfront. And so various local businesses in anticipation of some type of unrest, whether it be if Trump wins or if Biden wins, they are thinking, okay, I have to protect my business. We just came off of a summer where there were a lot of protests, a lot of looting, some destruction of property. We don't want to see that again. And so I just want the panel to think about this for a second. Normally in this country, because boarding up businesses is not unheard of in this country. Normally we do this for hurricanes. We do it in anticipation of a riot or some type of violence or whatever. Never do we do it for an election. This is unprecedented. So what does this say to you about what's going on with election 2020?
Robbie, did you want to comment?
Sure. To me, it's very indicative of the state of the country at this point in time, just how polarized the nation is, because that's like you said, for corporations to be sending out an edict or all CVS stores to be boarded up, they're thinking about it at a corporate level. They're thinking about the significant losses that are going to be had. And that's it. It's whether Trump wins or whether Biden wins. What kind of unrest are you going to get from the other side of the fence? Like my mom had posted earlier, like we feel for you. There's a lot of anxiety in Canada over what's going to happen post-election as this is going on and the numbers really start coming in. Um, Everything leading up to a final decision, because I feel that it's going to be tied up legally. It's going to be tied up however he can to fight for every minute that he can stay in office. But the fact that businesses are boarding it up, that doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to see more of it.
I mean, to Robbie's question, I'm curious, what do you guys think as far as who's going to create more violence? If Trump wins, is there going to be more violence if Trump wins, or more violence if Biden wins? What are your thoughts?
So I was in a thread earlier this week where someone was asking that very same question as it relates to Washington, D.C. And they said, this just shows that, D.C. is afraid that Trump is going to win because, DC is a liberal city. And so they wouldn't riot or they wouldn't protest if Biden won. And obviously, this was someone who is not from the area, is not from the DMV. This kid grew up in Wisconsin somewhere. And I'm like, well, you don't understand, like, where Washington, DC, the city, the nation's capital, may be overwhelmingly Democrat, the suburbs, the surrounding two states, the bordering two states are not. Virginia and Maryland have a huge number of conservative. I mean, think about the white supremacists that, invaded Charlottesville back in, I believe it was 2016, 2017, if you will, 2017, I think it was, where someone died, a young lady died. And so I would not put it past, if Biden won, I would not be surprised if we have the Proud Boys of Virginia, if we have the white supremacists and the KKK coming out from the woods in Maryland. I would not be shocked.
Well,
DC is a democratic island where we are so far removed from all of the other unrest that goes on, racial unrest that goes on in this country.
Yeah, DC is typically a hotbed in general because, that's where people come to protest. If they want to protest anything with the government, they're going to come. So, I can see it either way, that there would be somebody down there. But are you going more for Biden, or you think more unrest with Biden or more unrest with Trump?
I mean, I don't think I've waited. Honestly, I really didn't think about it that much, even though I was involved in that conversation. I kind of dismissed what that young man had to say because he wasn't from here. But it wasn't until I saw these images this morning where they were boarding up the CVS across the street where I said, huh, are we really about to do this? Okay. All right.
What do you think? What do you think is going to?
I don't know that there's a happy ending either way. I think there's going to be violence either way. I know that part of the conversation with a lot of my countrymen is the fear of an all-out civil war breaking out south of the border because everything is so polarized. It's a powder keg. Their stress is so high with everything that's happening, and it all it takes is one event to just set the rest of the dominoes in motion. We had about a month and a half ago, was it in Michigan? They had a kidnapping plot that already laid out for the governor. That's not the only action that's been planned by right-wing militant groups. So these vigilantes are scary, and whether if Trump wins, there's going to be parties in the streets. But there's going to be a lot of angry people who will want to suppress those parties, who will not want to hear that noise. So,
I mean, in my opinion, I honestly believe that if Trump wins, I think it will be worse. Because I mean, we saw the worldwide protests that occurred when he won the first time in 2016. There were worldwide protests. I mean, they weren't violent protests, but they were worldwide. This time, and that was before we really knew what we were getting with Trump. We had a pretty good idea of what we were getting with Trump, but we didn't know. Like we kind of felt like, okay, maybe he could be presidential, maybe he could learn to understand the office, or surround himself with people. But we know everything we got with Trump was worse than what we thought it was in 2016. It's worse than what we thought it was. And so now I believe that if he were to win again, I believe, and I mean, the feelings and emotions that will happen will just be ridiculous. I mean, we've seen unrest, we've seen protests throughout his presidency at this point, from day one. From day one. So I think it's gonna elevate.
So let me ask you this: what if he loses?
Yeah, and if you
and refuses to leave?
Okay, then that would be crazy.
I kind of think that our people in DC are not going to go for that.
Nope.
I kind of think that folks are going to storm the streets, storm the area, Lafayette Square in front of the White House, and demand that he get his ass out. Yes. So that's another aspect of
I didn't even think about that, actually. Him choosing not to leave.
If he refuses to leave, like, a lot of people are going to be like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
I really don't think the government will allow it in general. I think the Republicans, I don't think the Republicans would allow it. It depends on how close it's going to be. At this point, with the voter turnout, and this was, I think, something else that you were going to speak to, and it's kind of a segue, I guess, but, with the voter turnout, it's pointing to Democrats. It usually leans Democratic when there's high voter turnout. So, I mean, there's a good chance he loses, I hope. I've been scared to say that because I always feel like if I say that, then people will get complacent. But we have to get this guy out. I mean, we have to continue to talk about it, to get people out there voting. We can't just sit back and say, oh, we're good. All this voter turnout is great and we're done.
That's another thing, because we keep talking about voter turnout and people getting out to vote, if you will. And so I just want to take it back a little bit to, our question at the top of the segment in our quick fire.
Mm-hmm.
With all of these rappers, how many of you think Lil Wayne
rapper of all time? Yeah.
How many of you think, and this is to our viewing audience as well, how many of you think Lil Wayne voted 4 years ago?
Oh, that's good.
How many of you think Ice Cube voted 4 years ago? 50. Kanye. This is what we need to start exposing these people for. They are using their celebrity to put out a certain message based on their personal business situations. But they haven't consistently been voting. Ice Cube admitted that this is the first time that he has really paid attention to politics.
Yep.
So that MFR ain't voting, hasn't voted, hasn't been a part of the democratic process. I know Wayne ain't put the lean down, didn't put the purple drink down to go vote in 2016. So we really need to be careful about who we decide to look to for representation when it comes to politics, especially when these people are in different tax brackets who don't have the same struggles as the common man on the street. 5 Cent was talking about how he was upset with the Biden plan because of the increase in taxes. That's for Americans who make over $400,000 a year. That's not the average American. So why are you encouraging the average man to vote for someone who's still going to dig in their pockets and dig deep? I don't understand the celebrity pull. Like I never want to say, celebrities don't have the right. I think everyone in this country has the right to make their voice heard about politics and who, they are encouraging, who they share an ideology with. But at the same time, it has to make some sense. If you are an American, you are not even middle class, you are maybe upper lower class, you're making maybe $45,000 a year. How is what 50 Cent, 5 Cent, Lil Wayne, all of them, how is that affecting you? Your taxes are not going to go up. You don't make $400,000 a year. I don't make $400,000 a year. And I'm not listening to someone who is a drug addict, someone who is constantly posting things about how he hates his son. That would be 5 Cent. Kanye, who,
He called himself 20 Cent at least.
Yeah.
5 Cent. And I want to say 5 shillings, but 5 Cent, we'll go with 5 Cent. But even Kanye, Kanye, vacillates.
Yeah.
Vacillates. Because last year he said he felt like he had been duped by Trump. Now he's back in the conversation talking about, okay, I kind of support Trump, even though I think I want to run, but I have no problem running under the guise of I'm taking votes away from Joe Biden. Like, you got to pay attention to what these people are saying and what their end game is. And think about also one last point. Think about all the people, the Black folks that Trump are dragging out and putting in front of the camera and saying, this person is endorsing me, Black people, follow him. Mm-hmm. They're not politicians. They're not educators. They're not lawyers. They're not doctors.
You say use your favorite word.
What, Coon? I was getting there. These are he is picking the same type of rapper over and over and over. Rappers, if you will. Not even women, not even Black women, but rappers over the past month. And so this is how he sees the Black community. This is the bar. He thinks that that's our glass ceiling. Yeah. Versus, there are hundreds of thousands of other people, Black people, who are more influential that he could have picked, that he could have reached out to. There are a lot of Black Republicans in this country.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, but there are. And so,
nothing wrong with being a Republican. I mean, I'm just saying.
I said Black Republican.
There's nothing wrong with being a Black Republican.
Yeah, there is.
No, it isn't.
But that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation.
I am not a Black Republican, but I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with being a Black Republican.
Are you a white Republican?
I am not a Republican.
I think Liz really brought up some salient facts, though. It's, who are you taking your political advice from? I'm sorry, if I had an interest in becoming a hip hop artist, I may go to Face Tattoo Lil Wayne and say, hey, give me some pointers. But if I'm going to look for pointers on how to live my life successfully and be a good person, or how to hedge my votes or to vote ethically, I'm not going to Lil Wayne. I'm not going to Ice Cube. I'm not going to people out of my tax bracket. I'm not going to people who have absolutely no understanding of what my life situation is. And that's it. if I want advice, if I want legal advice, I go to a lawyer. So that's it. Why aren't we getting more information? What are the poli-sci professors talking about? What are the experts? Who are they endorsing? Because that's important, because they understand the complexity of the entire political machine. So let's do it.
I do want to get to the comments. There's a lot of comments online. I don't want to get to
I
some
don't
of
mean
them.
to laugh. I don't mean to laugh, but Mike Wolf just,
I saw it.
That was a good one.
Like with other Black Republicans, Herman Cain was not available. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, thanks to COVID. Ade says Kanye talking about running for governor if he doesn't continue the presidential run. Kevin Thaxton has a bunch of comments. None of them are intellectuals, doctors, teachers, etc. Kanye is a mental case. Wayne is an idiot. Curtis does not like to pay his child support. I'm super certain that those rappers never voted. Jacqueline Robinson says they will squawk about Obama, that he did nothing for the Black community, yet when they're asked what they did for the Black community, when they are asked what they did for the Black community themselves, they're cricket.
Well, no, they've done more for Black community since Lincoln. I mean, that's been the statement. They have done something.
And listen, think about the type. There are a lot of conscientious, good rappers out there, male and female. Trump hasn't tapped into any of them.
Nope.
None of them are jumping on the Trump bandwagon.
None of them are interested. I think anyone. I mean, if you look at the people, they're either they seem to be either poorly educated or they have other interests, financial interests. So back to the previous conversation we were talking about. On another note, if he loses, hopefully Biden shuts down the country coast to coast for a 30-day COVID lockdown. The USA has lost COVID battle so far, so sad. Jose says the world will be watching on November 3rd. And Ade says the Secret Service will be taking care of 45 leaving. Also, speaking about the unrest real quick, more unrest will come from 45's camp, says Ade. Jose says at this point, it is almost lose-lose situation. There will be mayhem regardless. It's so sad, so wrong. I honestly have no words. And Ropka says, Trump. My dad said he will call the army, and we should be very worried. Trump is deadly.
If you guys don't have any liquor in the house heading into Tuesday's election, I suggest you go out and get you a bottle.
Guns are flying off the shelf.
That's not encouraging to me.
How do you know? Walmart had to shut down. They took guns out of their store because they were flying off the shelf.
They took them out and then they put them back, and now they're talking about taking them out again. Walmart doesn't know what they want to do. If they didn't take guns out of their store,
and they took them out specifically for the election recently.
Okay, gotcha. Jim offering just a little reprieve.
Yeah.